Boom, shoot. Boom, shoot. Boom, shoot. Boom, shoot. Boom, shoot. Boom, shoot. Do you smell that? That's boom shoot. I love the smell of boom shoot in the morning. Apocalypse Now references aside, it's been, oh my god, over 9 months since I last talked about a boomer shooter. I might as well fix that because we've got something I've been looking forward to for a long time. And that something is the full retail release of Viscerafest by the indie development duo of Fireplant Games and Acid Man Games. Viscerafest is known for many things. The fact that the developers are largely part-timers, its diehard community in the indie shooter space, and its almost mimetic reputation for its difficulty. I picked this up after hearing about it in a Civ 11 roundup video 4 years ago? God damn, that's a long time. And after finishing the entire first chapter in 2 sittings, I went, okay, I'm waiting to see when this comes out of early access so I can experience the whole thing. Which is exactly what I'm doing because, if my calculations are correct, this is going to be coming out on the day before the 1-year anniversary of the release of my Ultra Kill Act 1 video. That seemed like such a quaint time. So it seems fitting that I'm capping off the past year's worth of videos with a trip into the boom shoot pits. Because let me tell you, this one's a good one. But before we go in depth, I just gotta get the housekeeping out of the way. If you in any way enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, comment on it, and subscribe because I wouldn't do this without you. And tell me which one of my videos from the last year was your favorite. I'm always reading the comments and I like interacting with all of you. With that out of the way, let's get it started. Viscerafest is interesting in that it not only has a story, but also a really good one. But before I get any further, I think Caroline can sum it up best.
Let's start from the top. Name's Caroline, 27 years old, arms enthusiast, full-time mercenary, and girlfriend to a wonderful man named Athens Fetter. Been hoping to propose for a while now, but unfortunately work's been a bit slow, meaning rings aren't exactly in my price range. Thankfully, some warlock twat named Chromune has acquired a rather hefty bounty on his head, and killing him was in the job description. Apparently, he's good chums with a bunch of gits who run some kind of illegal science gig called the USC, and word is he was last seen heading toward a base they just recently cobbled together above the Earth. So the plan's simple. Break in, kill the target, collect my pay, and get home in 3 days, just in time for date night. Now, let's get this bloodbath started!
Thank you, Caroline. And that entire thing was just a taste of how colorful the writing and dialogue is in this game. Like the intro just said, you play as full-time mercenary and possible humanoid abomination Caroline Page, who, in her pursuit to put a ring on it, gets embroiled with the schemes of an illegal science operation that's got a space station orbiting the Earth. From there, shit immediately goes off the rails. And the events following take Caroline through an incredibly wild and kind of fucked up journey that has deeper implications than the initial 3-day trip entailed. Oh, the things we do for love. Cheekiness aside, it's actually a really good story, and there's some twists in here that actually caught me off guard, which doesn't really happen with me in video game stories because I can usually guess twists coming from a mile away. A huge part of this is because of the voice acting in Viscerafest. Caroline is voiced by Jana Paulson, a voice actor whose work I'm not entirely familiar with, but she sells the goddamn hell out of Caroline as a character. Jana and the writing give Caroline an energy that can be only described as out-of-pocket as fuck. And she's got the most quips and hilariously messed up sense of humor since undead gunslinger Caleb from Blood. She frequently comments on the situations that are happening in the game.
Eek. I like it.
Quipping back and forth with the antagonists.
But tell you what, cut your little recreational trek short, and I'll do the service of buying an elegant specimen such as yourself a drink when all's said and done.
Well, that bounty is mine, pretty boy. And I hate to break it to you, but I've got a nice tall glass waiting for me at home.
And even making references to other properties in a way that doesn't feel grating. Like I was saying, The absurd nature of the dialogue gives off a lot of nonchalant ridiculousness, and there's so much of it. But it never feels like it was ever grating or out of place. And as a result, it helped Carolyn feel like a fully fleshed out character, especially when it came time to focus on the more serious story beats and you learn that Viscerafest is surprisingly well written. Don't get me wrong, it's neither Nier Automata or Disco Elysium, but it's more like a really good summer action movie with really good pacing. And the rest of the voice cast is game too, between enemies having call-outs for abilities, random middle-level aliens serving as annoyed onlookers, and even the main bad guys, Chromium and Dr. Mortis, are fantastic. Hell, even the names for the difficulty settings are randomized with cute little titles, because anything that keeps it thematically consistent with the names being relationship-focused, the highest difficulty, of course, being called Death is My Soulmate, is so good. I think there was a set of masochism-themed ones in the early access build that I played, where the highest difficulty was called I Forgot the Safe Word, which is fucking hilarious, but I think it got taken out for being too risque, because I can't find it anymore. Oh well. There's even a place in the hub called the Library that serves as a repository for data logs that you can find, and a bestiary of all the enemies that you've encountered. And those bestiary entries all go super in-depth, and as a result, the world building is surprisingly fleshed out as a result of it. Overall, the writing in Viscerafest is really good. But now, I need to talk about the gameplay because there's a lot to go over. Viscerafest was originally released into Steam Early Access on May 20th, 2021. This was almost 4 years ago, and it consisted of one chapter of 6 levels. With the release of 1.0, that's climbed to 3 chapters containing over 23 levels, with revamped art, level designs, weapon mechanics, gameplay mechanics, level pacing, tutorialization. Pretty much everything from the ground up was touched, and Viscerafest feels radically different as a result, to the point of feeling like a completely different game. And I love that because you can tell exactly where it wants to go and what it wants to do. This is best seen in the movement in Melee. Carolyn has access to both a dash that renders invincible for a few frames, very useful for dodging enemy projectiles, and a bunny hop that she has access to by holding forward in the jump key that not only makes her move much faster, but cuts all damage received in half. These are the most robust movement tools seen in boomer shooters this side of Ultra Kill and Turbo Overkill, and I adore them. They play fast and loose and go right into the demanding as hell combat encounters. Melee is also how you jib enemies and stun lock them. This is important because stunning enemies keeps them from attacking you, and jibbing them lets you eat their hearts to regain health. As horrifying as this sounds, it makes sense because of the pace enabled by the movement that combat takes. And then there's the weapons. You start with your workhorse weapons. The Skull Piercer, a hand cannon that can drop most low-tier enemies in a single shot while doing decent damage to higher-tier enemies. And the Shredders, a pair of SMGs that can lay down suppressing fire while also stun-locking enemies to death.
I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you.
Ammo is everywhere for these things, and as a result, they were always getting use out of me. And then we get to the rest of the arsenal. You got the Bunker Buster, a double-barreled shotgun that fires explosive rounds that can deal increased damage when fired in the enemy's face, which offers a cool risk and reward factor when using it. A combination rocket and sticky bomb launcher called the Shrapnel Gun that can deal more damage when shooting the bombs near the enemies as opposed to direct damage. And then there's the more absurdly powerful stuff, like the Plague Rifle, a walking Geneva Convention violation which shoots out poison gas and stun locks enemies during its long duration. The Deus Mortis, a quadruple-barreled shotgun that fires out a wall of pellets that can be recalled with a tap of the trigger, a souped-up grenade launcher with a ridiculous area of effect, and a flamethrower called the Barbecue Belter that no-sells enemy shields. There's one last weapon, but I'm not showing that one. That one needs to be seen in order to be believed. Trust me, you can thank me later. These are all balanced around the use of the movement and melee mechanics because the arenas and levels are designed to be used with that stuff in mind. And more importantly, with the exception of the Skull Piercer and Shredders, ammo is scarce as fuck, and you need to mix in shooting with melee to keep yourself from getting killed. And that's when I noticed what Viscerafest was really doing. Its gameplay loop is almost a dead ringer for Doom Eternal and Sekiro. Mainly in the sense of, Here's a set of tools that we want you to use in very specific ways. If you can't or won't do that, that's on you. And it scratches my brain in the exact same way as those do. Because there are enemies that are shielded and need to be punched to death. Enemies with purple armor or purple skin that take reduced melee damage and are immune to stun locking. Armored enemies that can't be shot normally, etc., etc. But I will say that on the normal difficulty at least, Viscerafest isn't nearly as strict about its combat loop as Doom Eternal and Sekiro are. You can't brute force it, but it's not nearly as satisfying to do that, in my opinion. And there's no better example of this than in the boss fights. Because the boss enemies Viscerafest throws at you, the end of chapters 1 and 2 in particular, will kick your teeth in. The best example I got was the boss at the end of chapter 2, where you fight Dr. Mortis himself inside of a weird sci-fi orb tank thing that reminds me of the Cyberdisc from the 2012 XCOM game. I was getting my shit rocked by him over and over again while I was bunny hopping around the arena. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I have an uppercut, let me try that. I then proceeded to circle strafe around him while uppercutting him to death in less than 2 minutes. It was great. If there's one thing I gotta knock Viscerafest on, it's the level design at times. But it's purely a me thing. I say this because the levels, when not packed with enemies, are these large, sprawling mazes that house a bunch of secrets and are chock full of platforming goodness. And while all that stuff is really cool, I unfortunately have a terrible sense of direction and keep on getting lost. While I did find my way around, I just need to bring this up for the directionally challenged like me. This one bit aside, Viscerafest is a gameplay delight, and I'm sure as shit going through it on the higher difficulties because goddamn this is so good. Viscerafest sports a pixel art style that is possibly the best I've seen in recent memory. It manages to convey its fucked up imagery in a way that manages to also be hilarious at the same time. It's also probably the goriest game I've played since Proteus, but whereas Proteus is slick with blood, Viscerafest lives up to its name and just showers you in giblets. Like so many giblets that it makes Mortal Kombat blush. And it's really colorful to boot. The environments and the user interface in particular are great to look at. And speaking of the environments, I appreciate how all of them are themed in specific ways. Like, the first chapter is set entirely within the aforementioned space station, and chapter 2 is entirely on Earth in what is clearly a Shadow Warrior homage. And then there's the music. It's so good. It's so fucking good. Michael Markey's work still slaps as hard as it did when it was first released in early access all those years ago. And from what I understand, there was also another composer brought in by the name of Jeffrey Day. This is my first time hearing his stuff, and I gotta say, his work in episode 2 is pretty great. Although I will admit that at the time of writing, a lot of the audio and music in chapter 3 is actively getting finished up. It sucks, but what can you do? Now let's bring this sucker home. Viscerafest is a great reminder that when a boomer shooter hits, it hits like a hydrogen bomb. I got through most of it in about 8 to 10 hours, but I can see myself playing it way more. Between its great story and writing, demanding combat, great arsenal, and levels jam-packed with secrets, Viscerafest is one of the most me-coded video games I've played in literal goddamn years, and I am so into it. If you like your shooters of the indie and arena variety, you'd be a goddamn clown to miss this. And as a quick aside, this has been a great year of work that I've done, and I love and appreciate how everyone watching just kinda stuck around. I just wanted to say thanks real fast, and hope that you all have a wonderful weekend. Now go play some goddamn video games.
A Shadow Warrior.